uh, recording the presentation. And thank you so much for joining us this evening, Jeannie. And thank you everyone for coming on. Tonight, Jeannie is going to talk a little bit about birding in Waterville Valley and the birds that she's seen and some additional information that can get us all going and excited. It's always so much fun to talk with you, Jeannie, about what you're seeing and what we see and how to figure out what to make of it all and enjoy. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will let you go ahead and begin, and then when you're ready, just let me know and I will put the slideshow up.
Okay, so before, I'll thank all of you for joining me on a Friday night here when I know you probably all have other things to do. And some of you out there have been on bird walks with me and you know how boring this can all get, but we're looking for birds that are just kind of hidden. But Leah, thank you so much for taking an interest because birding today also has a real connection with climate change. And I think that's something that everybody is aware of and interested in. Anyway, I think it's the birds are right there telling us that, you know, that there's changes. So what, before I start talking, or we do the slide series, and I know everybody wants to see the pictures, which are absolutely beautiful, but we just need to just spend a few minutes talking about migration, like how and why do all these birds, why are they here? Where have they come from? So it's really a seasonal movement, migration, and most of these birds are all migrating at night. You know, they've traveled basically thousands of miles to get back here, some of them. In North America, we have 4 different flyways, and the birds that we're seeing here are coming from the Atlantic flyway. So if you think of North America being divided into 4 segments, we have the Atlantic, the Mississippi, the Central, and the Pacific. So in North America alone, we have 2.6 billion birds disappear between spring and fall migration. Why is that? So these birds that are coming long distance and even short, they have to survive storms, cold snaps, skyscrapers, buildings with lights on it is a real issue in our country right now. They have to avoid predators. They're foraging for food, diseases, human-caused dangers, windows, lights, drought, and wildfires. So migration is very perilous, but it's also very wondrous. What is it that makes birds like move? Why do they all of a sudden show up here? What is their first inkling? So a lot of it are seasonal changes. The weather around the birds are changing. The food around the birds are changing. And sometimes they just are genetically set. They're like, okay, something in my genetic makeup is telling me I got to leave here and go find another place. But there's also a lot of it that the scientists don't really understand. Some of it is evolution. When we think about it, North America is a very temperate zone. When the glaciers retreated, you know, thousands of years ago, you have all of these birds that were way, you know, in Central America and South America. What made them move? And why are the birds up here now that when the glaciers retreated? Well, it was really a land of opportunity for the birds. They found that there was high insect food up here. There were less birds. There were less predators. There were longer days. There were fruit and flowering trees. And it was just a really good place to bring up their young. So the birds started venturing further north and even further north. So now here we are, many of the birds today, they migrate, they may be coming through here, but they're going all the way up to the tundra. So it's really, really pretty amazing. Now, where do the birds migrate? Some birds stay at mountaintops and may lower altitudes. Some birds are short distant migrants, which are those. We have mid-range migrants, which are bluebirds and robins. They used to move further south, and now with climate change, a lot of these birds are not moving as far south as they used to. There are 350 different species from North America that migrate all the way down to Central and South America. You have the orioles, you have all of these warblers that we're going to be talking about, and also the swallows. Many times these are predetermined routes that the birds are taking, and their ancestors for thousands of years, again, their genetic makeup is what makes birds travel and move on. Magnetic fields, stars, and also learn landmarks. And it's just amazing to think that these little tiny birds, and you look at what butterflies do also, coming all the way from Mexico. So spring migration happens much faster than fall. You have all these brightly colored males coming in and they're breeding plumage, and they're in here and they're trying to find territory. They're usually exhausted once they get here, but the different species are finding specific habitats that they're going to, which is why we have many of the birds here that we do, is because they're coming to boreal forests. They want to be with the spruce and the fir trees. And some of them, are mixed in with some deciduous. So some birds are going to backyards, some are in fields. We have low nesting, we have understory canopy, thickets, lakeside, tundras, tidals, and marshes. There's just so many different habitats with all the different species of birds. If migration goes wrong, the birds can end up outside of the normal range. And where the spring, the South had so many unusual storms. I look at every day, Maine and New Hampshire rare bird alerts, and I have seen so many birds that have been blown here from the west that have come up, that it's like, where are these birds and how are they going to find their way back? Or are they going to find a mate here? So this is, how we end up losing birds also. But right now, there's so much research going on with birds and migration, and there are more radar stations. There's more birds being banded. The banding is getting more and more improved. I always encourage people to join eBird. It's an amazing free app from Cornell University. And it shows the power of people working together using data, and it's helping to conserve species while still accommodating all the human needs. So what are the things that we can do to help the birds? Plant native plants, very important. In climate change, we're finding where many times the birds are leaving later to migrate south. They're waiting for native plants for the berries to form, because they fatten up much better with native plants than they do with the invasive plants. Another thing is feed the birds, but there's been different articles out now about salmonella in bird feeders. Hummingbirds, their solutions are not good. You've got to keep your feeders clean. You've got to change your hummingbird solutions every 2 or 3 days, especially in the heat. One of the biggest predators to birds are cats. You've got to keep the cats indoors. They kill birds needlessly. There's over 1 million birds in North America that are killed every year just from house cats. Try to prevent window strikes. Put up bird houses. The bird houses are going to mimic tree cavities. And I had bird houses where we used to live, and I had bluebirds all the time. It was amazing, or chickadees or titmouse. But another really good thing is our biggest advocate right now for the birds is our Audubon Society. They are working on, in Louisiana, in Alaska, in the grasslands. I know they're always asking for money, but it's the only way that all these birds are really going to survive. And if you join Audubon, they have many different apps out there. They're all free. I use the National Audubon every day to help me identify what I may have seen or heard. And someone emailed me today, there's an app that's out, one I'd never heard of before, from eBird. It's called BirdNet. And it's, I actually went outside and worked it, and it was a first bird trying to identify by sound that I was actually, wow, it actually worked. And I've got red-eyed vireos like crazy in my yard, and it picked it right up. I was like, oh man, finally something that works. So another issue this time of year that is there's baby birds out there, and people are always saying, what do I do with baby birds? I found this in my yard. So I just read this article from Audubon saying, are we really kidnapping baby birds? So if you find a baby bird outside, first of all, does it have feathers? So that would be a nestling, and many times they do need rescuing. They're like little pink aliens. They're not going to make it on their own out there. So if you find one, then, you know, put it back in the nest if you can. If the parents are and it's really been abandoned, then you need to, you know, as soon as you can, get that to a wildlife rescue center. But if it's a fledgling where the bird has feathers, and you could just, you know, tell the difference, try to look around, see if the parents are around, put the baby bird back in the nest. Birds do not have the sense of smell like we think they do. They're not going to abandon the bird because we touched it. Keep an eye on, put it, and if you don't see a nest, make a nest, put a bird in it. If the parent doesn't come back within about an hour, then you want to call a wildlife refuge center and see if you can make arrangements for the birds. And that's just really good common sense. And if it's after hours, then you may want to put it in a box with air holes in it, put something, maybe a heating pad underneath of it to keep the bird warm, but don't feed the bird, get it help the next morning as soon as you can. So lastly, before we get to pictures, I just wanted to pick one bird that was just really something that's definitely in the valley here, and that's hummingbirds. They are so easy to attract. Tube-shaped flowers, hummingbird feeders are awesome. They're tiny, they're only about 3.5 inches long, but one of the reasons that hummingbirds are really important is they are actually pollinators. You can find pictures of hummingbirds with actually pollen on their bills, and they're going to take that pollen to the next flower. So when we're really worried about bees and losing insects, here we are with these little birds that are great pollinators. Their favorite food is plant nectar. They love native milkweed. They'll also eat insects and spiders, which is another thing to talk about is, you know, any of us are outside, myself included today, I'm like running for the bug spray because the black flies are so bad. But try around the house. Many of these birds were going to be picking up spiders. Like, don't be spraying around your house and the foundations or whatever. Just get a broom if you have to and use it. But, you know, somehow if we can cut back on insecticides, that's really helpful. They have a small, very compact cup. The females, hummingbirds are the only ones, they incubate, they make the nest, and they're basically doing all the work. So we wonder, like, how do these birds make it? Their metabolism is one of the highest of any animal on earth. Fat is accumulated before migration, and then they kind of, during migration, it's a very steady release of energy. They have to double their weight before they begin to migrate, and the hummingbirds go all the way to Central America. So one of the signs of hummingbirds, it's like, when do we take our hummingbird feeders down in the fall? When do we put them up in the spring? I used to keep a record of it, and by May 1st or 2nd every year down in southern Maine, the hummingbirds were there and they came back to the feeder like right away. So by the time they get here, they're starving, they're depleted, they're ready to drop. So having your hummingbird feeders ready for them, because many times flowers aren't blooming yet. And hummingbirds, I've read an article that said that they begin to move in the fall when bee balm is going by. So if you have a hummingbird feeder up, many times on the Atlantic Flyway, you will get migrants coming down from, say, Canada, northern New Hampshire. So always, the rule of thumb is always to keep your hummingbird feeders up for at least a week or two after you've seen your last hummingbird at the feeder. You know, it's just good help. So yeah, so that's about what I wanted to say. And birds make the long trip because changing seasons forces birds to adapt to nocturnal habits, and they sleep less. They also shrink and grow their internal organs. So birds' whole bodies internally are adapting to this wonder that they do. It's really incredible. So spring is very difficult migration for the birds. The fall, they just go to their, they don't have to go down to find a mate in territory, and they just get to where they go in the fall, and they're like, oh, thank goodness we're here. So many different birds that insects that birds eat that we don't even realize is they eat caterpillars, flies, moths, grasshoppers, beetles, spiders. So you can see the loss of insects is a climate change problem, and so we can all do whatever we can do will really be a help to the birds. So joining Audubon, if any of you, they have free apps, they have awesome articles daily, monthly, and it's just a really good way to be informed. Okay, Leah, that's about what I have. Just wanted to get those messages across, and a little bit of learning is always good with pictures, so anyway. So we have I think over 70 birds to show everyone. And so in the last 4 years, I've been up here 3 years in Summit View and 1 year in Osceola, and pinch out for a bigger view. So I'm going to start with all of these birds, I think, except for maybe 2, I've actually seen here in the valleys. Now, the great blue heron, I saw him or her. You can see it's a him because it's look at the inbreeding plumage. So that is the feathering on the back of the head there is absolutely beautiful. So most of these are not pictures I've taken, but they're pictures that Leah's gotten online. And but that would be a great blue heron, and that I've seen actually at Corcoran Pond.
And that's what I was going to say, Jeannie, that most of these photos actually come from Cornell, which is the eBird source, which is a really wonderful program and organization, or
Yeah.
however you want to call it, that they just do a great job of getting things together. And I'm so glad that you mentioned hummingbirds as the pollinators, because as we're working on improving our pollinator garden and what we're doing in the valley, there's 7 big pollinators in New Hampshire, and hummingbirds are the only thing other than insects, really. So it's fun to remember that. Besides that, they're so much fun to have around. They really do a lot for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through and see what we get here. There are a lot.
I know.
So we'll kind of go through, but as I just mentioned, all of these, the majority of the pictures that I chose are the male version, because fortunately or unfortunately, they're the pretty ones and they're the flashy ones, and that's what we notice.
Yep. So this is the American crow, and the crow, I just have some notes here. People are always asking me, how can you tell the difference between a crow and a raven? A raven has more of a wedge-shaped tail, and the crow has a short-tipped square tail. And the raven, when you hear it, it is more like, it's really like honking sound. It's a very distinct sound versus the crow, and it is much bigger than the raven is much bigger than the crow. A much bigger bill. You can see how big that bill is right there. And the ravens are here all winter, definitely, and the crows are just here year round. Great crested flycatcher. I just had one of these in my yard this afternoon, and up on Triple I Road, I had one early spring, and this was the first time I've ever seen or heard him here. And they're really hard to see. It's a flycatcher, so they will perch on something, but they have it's a sound called weep, 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 and it's very distinct. So if you have that in your yard, there you go. You've got a great crested flycatcher. Again, if you go to the Audubon app, you can hear this. They have each species has the sound of it and of the bird. Beautiful bird. The northern cardinal, it's the only red bird that actually has a crest. And they've moved more north because of the habitat that we and our fruiting and flowering trees. They are around year round. So this is a great bird. This is a bird that's really more at high altitudes, and it winters here. But there were a group of us on Mother's Day. We were on Swan's Way, and there was this pine grosbeak. It's not a shy bird, but it's not a bird that you see here very often. And it was a really good sighting that we all saw that day. That was the first I've seen it here. It was awesome. Many of you have the evening grosbeaks and the rose-breasted grosbeaks, and this is in the same family. You can see it's the same type of bill. It's a seed eater. There you go, rose-breasted. Isn't that gorgeous? That's the male, breeding plumage, beautiful. Oh, snowy owls. Okay, so I did make, so this is a special bird. I've seen probably 20 snowy owls, but I have not seen him in Waterville. And I'm not going to say who, but someone told me he had a snowy owl in his yard here this winter. Just one day saw it, the crows were chasing it. And so I had to put this in here because just the fact that the snowy owl was in Waterville is great. I think it's really good news. I couldn't report it to eBird, but anyway, just to see this, they had the most beautiful yellow eyes that you can see there. They have a round head. Young females are heavily marked. So this would probably be a young female. And the old males are the ones that are pure white. So they are nomadic. They feed on lemmings. They nest up in the tundra. And in the wintertime, the more we see coming down into the States is because there would be a shortage of lemmings up in their breeding territory. So they breed in the tundra. They come down here. They like to find beaches. And there many times are at airports because it resembles the tundra. They'll eat ducks, birds, hares, depending on where they are. They will eat fish and carrion. But anyway, they are the most beautiful birds to see, and they're huge. Barred owl, this is what we're hearing. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you? This is the owl that we're hearing at night. And they're pretty vocal right now. So yeah, great bird. Turkey vultures, we all see these soaring all over up and down the highway. We can tell it's a turkey vulture. You see that red head there? No feathers on the head. They're helping to clean up the environment. They're eating the carrion on the roadsides. They rock, just rocking as they're flying, and that's how you can tell that it's a turkey vulture versus another raptor of a hawk or eagle. They're huge. Oh, palm warbler. I had this right outside ground. It came in one early morning. First time I ever saw it up here. Male palm warbler, beautiful, just a migrant. I haven't heard or seen it since, but I think it just flew in one morning. Most of these little warblers migrate at night, and they come in, they land in the morning. And I think my yard must be on a flyway between Corcoran Pond and the water treatment plant over there, because I get so many warblers in here early morning, and now I'm not getting them. So I know that, migration has really come to a halt right now. Beautiful bird. Yellow warbler. This was on Swan's Way. This is again the male, red stripes on the breast, beautiful. Canada warbler. I had this right out front on a tree right in my yard too. The black necklace right there, white eye ring, just beautiful. This is black-throated blue warbler. This is we were on the Moose Run Trail on Wednesday, a group of us, and I had about 10 of them on that trail. We're gonna go birding there tomorrow. It's beautiful. It's a really New Hampshire, I would have it migrating through in southern Maine, but they're in the boreal forest. Beautiful bird. Black-throated green. Again, they're here, they're in the woods. They're really hard to find and spot, but their songs are absolutely beautiful, and they're singing right now. They're hard to find, but they're there. Black and white warbler, another warbler out in the woods. I had one on Moose Run the other day. Oh, Blackburnian. This is a real northern Maine, northern New Hampshire bird. Absolutely beautiful. We had these on Grilly Path 2 years ago. Beautiful. That's the male. Orange throat, gorgeous. Magnolia warblers, Livermore Road. I had that a couple of years ago. These are all warblers. Again, they're all in the family. Pine warbler. This is one that comes in March. It's one of the earliest warblers to arrive. And there's 3 birds that have the this metallic sound. It's a pine warbler, the junco, and the chipping sparrow. It's really hard to differentiate the sounds of them. So it's all about location. And these are at the top of a fir tree. Yellow rump. I had one in my yard feeding. These birds all eat insects, and it's really hard to spot them because they're just twitting from tree to branch. And this is the male, absolutely beautiful. Nashville. This was a fall migration last year. I had this one. It's kind of hard to miss. Beautiful bird. Blue-headed vireo. This was on Triple I. I had this this spring. Early. It was an early migrant coming through. Isn't that beautiful? So again, vireos, they're fly catchers. They're not going to come to your feeders. Most of the warblers will not come to feeders. They're all insect eaters, and this is a vireo. And we'll get to the red-headed vireo. It's beautiful. Brown creeper. This was here in the wintertime. First I saw it here. Insect eater, up and down the trees. Usually starts at the bottom of the tree and works its way up. And what he's doing is they're looking for insects behind the bark. Spider eggs. Okay, so this is, I know a number of you had common red palls at your feeders this winter. And I put this in here because this is in the same family. It's a hoary red pall. And it's good to look for in the wintertime with the common red palls. There are many times it's mixed in there with it, but it's a bird here in the wintertime. It's way up in the Arctic nesting now. Red-winged blackbird, well, everybody knows what those are. We'll see them down at Corcoran Pond and every other marsh area that you travel to. Goldfinch, they're all over the valley right now. You can hear them flying overhead, and they're absolutely beautiful. They don't nest until late in the summer, until they arrive in breeding plumage, but they don't nest until maybe August when thistle is blooming, and that's when the males can provide food, because that's their major food source, or thistle plants. Oh, American redstart. We just had this up at Bob's Lookout this is the male, where the orange is the female, is lighter and has yellow. Absolutely beautiful bird. We just had this on Wednesday. Gorgeous. Robin, what can we say? They sing every morning and wake us up. They're a beautiful bird. I mean, all these other birds are gorgeous, but what do we know growing up? Here it is right in front of us, the robin. Black cat chickadee, same thing. There's a boreal chickadee, which has a brown head. I have yet to see it here, and I keep hoping I'm going to. It's more at higher altitudes here, but I need to hike up a mountain, I guess, to see one. So, white-breasted nuthatches, you can hear they're hunking all over the valley too.
Whoops, sorry.
Yep, and there's the red-breasted nuthatch, the same. They both have like a hunking sound. It's kind of sometimes hard to differentiate. Oh, there we are. There are those bullies, blue jays. They're beautiful, but they will rob nestlings. They will rob eggs. But one thing that they are good for is they will alert other birds when there's a predator around. So they do have some goodness in them. There we go. Canada goose everywhere. But it's still nice to hear them flying overhead, isn't it? Making their sounds. Mm-hmm. Cedar waxwings. I actually had 4 of these in a tree here this morning. As all of the trees in the valley begin to, the fruit-bearing trees, as those berries are ripening, we'll see the cedar waxwings. They are migrant birds. It's all about food. They're going where there's food, and they're always traveling in flocks. when they have young, sometimes they will feed them insects to fill them up basically, but they're here now. They're in the valley now. Saw them this morning. Chimney swifts. Okay, the body of the chimney swift looks like a cigar. They're flying. The swallows are around town square, but I'm out in mountain sun here, and the chimney swifts all day long are they're aerial acrobats, and they're insect eaters. So they're helping to control the black flies.
We want them all around right now.
We do.
I wish they'd come to our garden.
Yeah, I know. Sharp-shinned hawk. I can't remember where I saw this one, but it's a woodland hawk. It eats little birds. They can fly through the woods like little acrobats, and they feed on small birds, rodents. But it's one of the smaller raptors. Oh, broadwing. We just had this. They're very common up in northern New Hampshire here. Beautiful hawk. We had this on Swan's Way on Mother's Day. Beautiful. So this is the common nighthawk. I think I talked about this a couple of years ago. I'm going to say it was 3 years ago in September. I was just on a walk. I was up by the Golden Eagle, and all of a sudden these one bird after another flying by. And then I ran home, got my binoculars, went back, and I stood on that corner for I don't know how long. And I counted like 60 of these went by. The next night, 30, and the next night, 30, and the next night there was nothing. So I happened to witness migration. So those same dates this year, this past September, I was on that same corner and not a one. So anyway, I think there are not as many in New Hampshire now as what they, but I think they nest more northern, but they are, anyway, I saw a migration. It was spectacular. Common yellowthroat. These are down right at the intersection of Deep Woods, Greeley, and Livermore. I had them every year, every spring they're there. This is the male common yellowthroat, and you'll hear them go, witchity, witchity, witchity. They're probably one of the easier warblers to spot. Dark-eyed junco. They nest here because they're still here. What can I say? We call them snowbirds because in southern Maine, when we see them, you're like, oh God, a snow's coming. So they nest more north, but they will go in the winter down south. Hairy woodpecker. There's a male. Whenever you can see the bill on that is larger than the downy. And that's really, sometimes it's hard to tell them apart. The males always have the red at the back of the head. The females do not. Northern flicker. This is in the woodpecker family. We'll see them on lawns. They love to eat grubs. So if you have one on your lawn, you might be wondering if you have grubs or some kind of insects in your lawn. Yeah, it's a woodpecker. It's in the woodpecker family. Beautiful bird. There's your downy. You can see the bills are much smaller, and it is a smaller bird. So that was a snag that, they're after whatever larvae is right in there, or it could be making its nest in there.
I never noticed the difference in the beaks between the two.
Yeah,
that's great.
You see the hairy is much larger.
It's very obvious.
Yeah. Oh, and there's our pileated woodpecker. There is evidence of that all over the valley. When you get up into the trails, when we're skiing all winter, whenever you see these oval-shaped halls, that is a sign of the pileated woodpecker. The downy and hairy make round halls, and many times you'll see these huge, like drilling out the bottoms of trees. In the wintertime, the larvae is at the bottom of the trees, so the snow can insulate it. And those pileated know it, and they will make huge halls. Beautiful bird, and you will hear it. Yeah, if you Google their sound, there's no mistaking a pileated. Eastern phoebe, it says its name, Phoebe, and it's always pumping its tail. Hard to spot sometimes. Flycatcher. Oh, there you go. Evening grosbeak. Oh, you people with feeders, I'm jealous. They're absolutely beautiful birds. Again, you see the beak on those? Those are seed eaters. So the difference, much different beak than the Phoebe just had, where it's a flycatcher. That's the male. That is absolutely a beautiful bird. Golden crown kinglet. I had these in the springtime, right on the road going up to the mountain. What do you call it? Mountain road. Yeah, just in the thicket there along the road, just hopping around. Another insect eater. Isn't that beautiful? Male breeding. So common mergansers, never saw the female, but there were 2 males on Corcoran Pond this spring. And wow, they're beautiful, just a beautiful, beautiful bird, beautiful duck. And that's the female behind it there with the brown tufted on the back of the head. Here's the red-breasted merganser. A different type of merganser, but this is the male. I mean, just, you look at breeding plumage, it's unbelievable. Double-crested cormorant. This I saw on the rock in the middle of Corcoran Pond last fall, and it stayed there for days. And then, just looking for other migrants to join it so it could take off and fly. I'm not sure where they go to. Mallards, beautiful, but very common on Corcoran Pond. Belted kingfisher. This has been around. It was actually flew over my house earlier this morning. It makes like a rattling sound. I don't know if it's found a mate or not, but it's around. It will dive in for fish, and we'll see it around. It's been around the Corcoran Pond. Beautiful bird. There's our heron. Oh, catbirds. They're all around around Corcoran Pond, all the thickets. You'll see them in your yard. You'll see them in all of your shrubbery and all. They love thickets. Oh, hermit thrush. These are getting to be, maybe more popular. It really has almost like an orange tail. It's in the thrush family, and we have 3 or 4 different kinds of thrush in New Hampshire. But hermit thrush, all of the thrushes have beautiful songs. Speckled breast, mourning doves, lovely bird. Hawks like them. Mockingbirds. So mockingbirds are in the mimic family, the same as thrashers, and this bird can mimic over 1,000 sounds. And they can just go on and chat all day long, even in the hot sun. Oh, here's the ovenbird. This is what we're all hearing in the woods right now. Try finding one. It's hard, but they're like teacher, 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 teacher. Beautiful bird. Yeah. So, and it's actually a warbler. It's not a thrush. Pine siskin. This is, these are here in the wintertime. And I know some of you have had them at your feeders. They look like goldfinch. It is a finch. It's in the finch family. They love thistle. So when you think you only need thistle for the goldfinch, the pine siskin will eat your thistle all winter too. Where the goldfinch may leave, the pine siskins will stay. Purple finch, there you go. More of a seed eater, breeding plumage, beautiful. They're around here in the valley now. They'll be all over your feeders. Oh, this is it, red-eyed vireo. I had 2 of them in the shrubbery out here the other morning, and there's one here. These birds will sing all day long, even in the heat of the day. Here I am. Where are you? Here I am. Where are you? They're everywhere. Beautiful. Here we go. There's our ruby-throated hummingbird. These are the only hummingbirds east of the Mississippi. There's many, all of you that travel, I'm sure you've seen many different hummingbirds out west, especially in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. but this is the only one east of the Mississippi. Beautiful. Rough grouse. A few of us saw this last year up on Moose Run. You know, it just comes out. It was like having a heart attack. It had its wings all splayed, and obviously had a nest nearby, but nothing to be afraid of. It just doesn't want you going near its nest. Barn swallow. This is what's flying around in town square. Beautiful birds. White-throated sparrow. These are ground feeders, and you will hear them. This is the male, and they. I'm losing what. Oh, PBD, PBD, PBD. You'll hear them all spring. They're pretty quiet right now because they must be nesting. And they travel in flocks. Chipping sparrows, they're all over the place here now. Song sparrow. These are all over the valley. There's one nesting here. I'm hearing it every single morning. I know it's not a mate, but I haven't seen the mate. So I know it must be sitting on a nest, and they like to make their nest in shrubbery. So your tree swallow, this I saw at migration. They're not here, but swallows come together with other swallow species and they migrate by the thousands together. I've seen it down at Plum Island. If you ever in the fall I've driven on to Plum Island Refuge down there where I'm driving through thousands of swallows. It is an experience beyond. It's incredible. Beautiful bird. Tufted titmouse, one of our local residents, and he'll be year round. Veery, this is in the thrush family. It's one of the thrushes. They have really a different sound. If you can ever Google it, it's one that when you hear it, you will always recognize it. White-winged crossbills. These are here in the wintertime. I think some of you told me you had them at your feeders. You can see it's crossbill. This is a white-winged crossbill, and there are red crossbills. This is the really more common one that's here in the wintertime, and they're going to, you know, they like their nuts but they're going to, I believe they go to feeders also, but it's a winter bird here. Wood thrush, oh gosh, the most beautiful melodic bird. If you're ever walking through the woods, I know many of you run, you bike and whatever, but to actually just walk through the woods sometime and hear a wood thrush singing, it's really music to your ears.
There we go. So thank you, Jeannie. Oh my gosh. So a couple things, only a couple, about that. One is that birds are so beautiful. You know, you say that, and each creature, it's so true. It's so fantastic to see how gorgeous they all are, and the fact that you have been able to identify these individual species is amazing, because, you know, we all do. Like you say, you go for a bike ride or you go for a run and you see the birds, and it's just so fantastic that you're able to pick some of them out. So before, you know, we have a few minutes for comments and questions, I just want to encourage folks, and we'll make sure to post it, that when we coordinate walks with Jeannie and the Waterville Valley Recreation Department, that people take advantage of it. Because, Jeannie, you say that they're going to be boring, but even just getting a few minutes with you to spend any of that time talking about one bird would be fantastic. You know, there's just so much for us all to learn, even if we think we know some of it.
You know what? It's really is, the older I get, it's really, I've been with some birders and I don't have the talent. It's really good for your brain just to remember all the birds, but learning the bird sounds, because many of these birds you can't, eBird considers, every time I go out, I'm submitting to eBird what I've heard or seen, and I'm keeping lists. So it's basically being a citizen scientist, and this is helping. It's helping the scientists realize what's going on in the bird world. But it's really good too for us, to take the time. And I think that's why COVID has really increased people birding, because they're realizing, well, we can't do anything else. Let's take time as families and just go for a walk in woods. And oh yeah, by the way, there's birds in the woods, so anyway, but it is really good. So yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that. And it's just amazing what is out there. And it's just taking the time to look and having patience, because you're not always going to be able to see it, but just being there is appreciating it. So.
Right. Spending a few minutes quiet to say, oh, I've been hearing something for the last 20 minutes. Oh, it's probably a bird. Where is it? So
Right.
It's a very small group on tonight. If folks would like to unmute yourself and have a moment with Jeannie, feel free. And I should be able to check in with folks. And otherwise, it's just so fun that you're such a willing resource in the Valley. I am so glad for it, because I haven't taken time particularly. There are so many great books out there, and there are apps, and there are, I just found a link today off of Facebook that was birds in Minnesota, but it was this beautiful illustration, and you click on it and you can hear the bird song. And my cats really like that. They're indoor cats. Thank you. We don't let them out.
Thank you. That's great.
I've never had indoor cats in my entire life, and
Yeah.
now I do, and I can feel like I'm doing something good for something.
Yeah. That's great.
It's a very interesting piece of that, but I love that we have you to call on. Just the other day in the garden, I'm like, I have no idea what those sounds are, and I know there are people out there who can hear and associate, what little.
Well, there you are. You just identified, or you asked me, in the field, what was it? And I'm like, it was a bobolink, so.
Oh, that was so
there's just
we
so
saw
many.
8 of them yesterday going through the field on a ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it got my daughter so excited. And then we were talking about the whippoorwill, and it's all those things that just to remind people. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions or comments, we'd love to take it now. And otherwise, just thank you again so much for your time.
I think probably some of them are my friends out there, and I've already answered a lot of their questions. So I'll let you all go. And it's Friday night. Everybody go enjoy.
Yeah, and this presentation is recorded, so there's lots of great information. And 70 birds, that's a lot of variety for the Valley to have. I'm really impressed.
But you know what? It really is, and they're not even. I mean, I know there's plenty more out there that I haven't even found yet. So I keep going, and I keep sometimes as the policeman goes by, and there I'll be by myself out early in the morning. Like, he must think, like, who is this lady?
So, I think it's great. So I'm so glad for your time and energy. So thank you so much. And I just see there's a comment here. Thanks so much. And we will be in touch.
I will say that was just Deborah just on there. So anyway, all I want to say is that when the person told me they had a snowy owl, I just said, if I report that, you're going to have tons of birders down your driveway. So anyway.
That's great.
All righty. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.